Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats podcast, where we talk about all things strange, unusual, and paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostest. I'm Stacy.
And I'm Kara.
So, Kara, I don't know if you heard this news story or not, but this story took place in, in Circleville, Ohio. Okay, apparently this guy got his arm bit off by a zebra.
Zebra? Oh, yeah. I saw
Did you
that.
hear that story? Yeah. That was crazy. I can't believe that first of all, that he had a zebra. And second of all, that it just, bit his arm off. But, zebras have, very straight, dull teeth. So the zebra had to have been, chewing on his arm for quite a while to get it off.
That's crazy.
I know, it is crazy. Very gross and disturbing.
Well, so when I would go to the Amish place, there was someone near them that had zebras. They just have them.
Oh, I wonder if that's the guy.
No, it's not. It's near Circleville, though.
Oh, okay.
Because I just googled where Circleville was, so I could double check that it's not
that far away from you. It's on the way.
But it's kind of south,
right?
The other place is more north.
Oh, okay. But yeah, that's crazy. Apparently, in the state of Ohio, a zebra is not legal. Considered an exotic animal. I'm like, how is that not considered an exotic animal?
So you can own an exotic animal, and you just can't own anything that's native to Ohio, is how the rules work.
Oh, okay. Because remember that one guy a couple years ago, he had all those animals, and he, let them loose, and they were running around, lions and cheetahs and all that. Seriously, and he let them loose. And it took
Ohio's
forever
weird.
to, wound them all up. That's crazy that you're allowed to. I want a zebra.
Well, now you can have one, but they're mean and they bite.
Apparently, who knew?
Be careful.
Who knew? Also, I was listening to one of the radio station, or I read it on the interwebs or whatever. But people have been talking about the Last of Us, right? About a zombie apocalypse, but not your normal zombie apocalypse. And the question was brought up, what would be the best state to live in during a zombie apocalypse? So what do you think the best state would be to live in for the zombie apocalypse? And I'll tell you what the number one answer was.
West Virginia.
You think West Virginia, and why do you think West Virginia would be a good one? Out of curiosity.
Because you got the mountains and stuff, the forests.
Okay.
It's pretty hard to trek to get people, you want to be pretty, you don't want to be in this big city, and West Virginia's not very heavily populated. Well, it's populated, but not I don't know. It's where Mothman hangs out.
Yeah. So, apparently, and just so now everybody knows, the best state for you to live in a zombie apocalypse is, drumroll please,
yep,
Wyoming. And you want to know...
Because of The Last of Us?
No, but you want to know why, though?
Because remember, that's where they were...
That is where the brother had his, utopia set up, But I feel
like it's cold.
But listen, there's a really good reason, though, why they named Wyoming would be the best state to live in for this. Because think about it. Wyoming is, in the middle of basically nowhere. There's not a lot of people around, for starters. And the second thing is they're so used to having to live off the grid for weeks at a time in the winter when it snows that they would have mass buildup of food and, other things that you would need. Versus, let's say, New York or California, where, people
Well,
don't...
yeah, obviously those places aren't
right,
really...
yeah, I mean, that would...
But they also have to think about temperature.
Yeah,
wise. But I feel like there's more animals in West Virginia than fucking Wyoming.
Are you sure? Because there's lots of cattle out in
And
Wyoming.
I feel like it's a pretty mid-temperature. The temperature's not too crazy there, so I feel like it would be more ideal.
But hopefully if it's cold out, though, wouldn't that kill... I mean, especially if it was the mold thing that was in The Last of Us.
Well, okay, but then that specific thing, yeah. But like, what kind of zombies are we dealing with?
I don't.
It's different
There
kinds.
are different kinds. I don't know, but I'm just telling you that they analyzed all the states, and that was the one that they said would be the best. Apparently, there's also a couple of government facilities in Wyoming that have huge stashes of stuff also, so they feel like that's the other reason why it would make for the best state to be living in during the zombie apocalypse. So now you know. Now you know what the best state is to live in during the zombie apocalypse. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. Very interesting. So I guess it's my turn to go first.
Wait, but before you go.
Yeah.
We have to talk about this because it's going to happen the weekend after this episode comes out. But, so, do you know what Splatfest is in Splatoon?
No.
So it's like a thing where Nintendo will give you 3 things and you have to choose and you like fight for like whatever category. Well, the upcoming Splatfest is cryptid themed.
Oh, really? Ooh, I have to get out my...
Yes.
I have to dust off the game and play that.
So the categories you can choose from is aliens, Bigfoot, or Nessie. Isn't that a weird...
That's a weird combo.
Cryptids to choose?
Yeah, why would they choose Nessie?
Which team would you be?
I was gonna say.
She seems like a weird one.
Yeah.
Like, considering Bigfoot and aliens, right. It's such a broad topic, and then it's just Nessie.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I guess because of the water, maybe, is the only reason why they threw that in there, because you got, Bigfoot that's on the land, and the aliens are in the air.
Land, space.
Yeah, is the only thing I could think of.
And water, but I don't know, it just seemed like a strange...
Yeah, I feel like...
Nessie doesn't seem quite as popular as the other two.
No, I feel like they could have chosen a different one for the water theme if they needed, you know what I mean, if they had to.
The Kraken or something cool.
Yeah.
Cthulhu.
Yeah, there you go. Huh.
I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna be Team Bigfoot. I feel like he's pretty cool.
I'd probably be Team Aliens.
Alien. I figured you'd be the alien, and I think they have green color.
Oh, really?
If I remember correctly.
Cool. I'll have to check that out.
I think I don't have to, because each color when you do a Splatfest, right. You pick your color as a specific color. Yeah. What's the new game? Do you have Splatoon 3? Because that's what.
Oh, it's on the.
That's the new one.
I don't think we do. I think we have 1 and 2. I have to see.
Yeah, the new one is 3. It just came out recently.
And is it available on your on the DS or whatever it's
your Switch?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's on the Switch, so you can get it for your Switch.
All right. I'll have to look into purchasing that. That sounds like fun.
And it's like only that weekend.
Oh, that's it.
So you have to play that.
That's the weekend while.
So it's like a.
Is that like while we're on the
no.
Oh, the weekend before.
No, it's the weekend, because this episode's coming out on next weekend.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So it's like the
when
weekend
we're recording
of like the 29th and the 1st.
So it's
April 1st.
Yes,
2nd.
It's like the 1st. Okay. It's that weekend is when the Splatfest is.
Okay.
And I thought it was so crazy. It's
that is funny. Yeah.
Cryptid theme.
Huh. Yeah, so check that out. If you're big into Splatoon, you should and you have the game.
I
didn't
should
know.
play.
Yeah. Sounds like a fun time.
My friends, someone told me, and I was like, "Oh, that's so good."
Huh. I've never heard of that.
Because they only do them I think maybe once a month or so is when they'll have a Splatfest, and I can't remember what the last one was, but normally they're like 3 things, and you have to pick your favorite of the 3. I have a feeling Aliens is gonna win though, because it's typically based on popularity.
Aliens are very popular.
I feel like Aliens are Bigfoot. I don't know. I feel like Nessie's not very popular.
I was gonna say
compared to the other 2.
See a lot of people picking Nessie because there's really not.
Aliens is such a broad topic.
Right.
There's so many different kinds.
Yeah, you could have
and Bigfoot,
Yeah,
there's so many different kinds.
Very elusive,
which is kind of funny because we're gonna be talking about a Bigfoot on my topic today.
Cool.
Or a Bigfoot.
And they also have
sighting.
like the ape man or the tree guy or whatever, the one the grass man, which is similar. Yeah.
Yowie.
Yeah, there's Yowie too.
Or Yeti.
Yeti, yeah. I mean, there's lots of different Bigfoot creatures. Interesting. There's only one Nessie.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty relevant to our podcast to talk about.
Cool.
But yeah, so what are you talking about today?
All right, so today I figured since we're getting really bumping up close to Easter here, and by the time this gets dropped, it will be like within 2 weeks of Easter, I'm going to do mine on the elusive Bunnyman. So, I'd never heard of this until I started looking this up. So apparently, the Bunnyman is an urban legend that originated in Fairfax County, Virginia in the 1970s. So the story goes, and it started as this urban legend. The urban legend is that a man dressed in a bunny suit would hunted in a residential neighborhood and around our nation's capital. Has been a local legend for over 50 years. So in 1973, the legend had spread to other states and he had been spotted in Maryland and the District of Columbia, other than just Virginia. His random and infrequent appearances, though, seem to be happening in mostly rural and secluded locations. And the stories all begin the same way. They all begin with a figure in a white bunny suit wielding a hatchet and threatening children or vandalizing property.
Scary.
Yeah. So by the 1980s, though, the Bunnyman had evolved into an even darker and more sinister character with several gruesome murders under his belt, apparently. Or at least that's what, people are saying. Doesn't necessarily mean it's all true. Basically, the main stomping ground for the Bunnyman is a railroad overpass near Fairfax Station, Virginia. And this became known as the Bunnyman Briidge. His main stomping ground was a railroad underpass near Fairfax Station, Virginia, and this area would be frequented by teenage partygoers and is now referred to, as I said, the Bunnyman Briidge. So the story...
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, I did too, but I didn't realize it was tied to an actual real person running around in a bunny suit.
Oh, okay.
So the story goes that at the stroke of midnight on Halloween, a killer in a white bunny suit waits for victims near the bridge. He will lure his unsuspecting prey in, and if you say his name 3 times while on or under the bridge, he will appear. But don't expect to survive this because he will slash your throat and then leave your body dangling from the bridge. Another version of this is that the spirit of an escaped mental asylum patient haunts this railroad bridge. He apparently escaped from the mental asylum to avenge the murders of his wife and child, who were supposedly killed in the area near where the Bunnyman Bridge lies. So he was living in the woods near the bridge, and he would kill and eat rabbits to survive. Once he was done, eating these rabbits and stuff, he would skin them, and he would leave their mutilated bodies hanging around on the trees. And he made a skin suit out of the bunnies, and that's how...
Oh.
Yeah, and that's how he became known as the Bunnyman. And apparently, so after he's, wearing this weird bunny suit and running around, it says that one Halloween night, after he was being taunted and tormented by the town children, he killed and mutilated them and hung their corpse from trees around the bridge. And that's how they say the legend of the Bunnyman began. And that's why we hear about all these people, freaking out and thinking get mutilated, and that if they, stand under the bridge and say his name 3 times. So
I've heard that.
Have you heard that? Like I said, I'd never heard this before.
I saw either YouTube video or maybe some of those videos I watched, on History Channel. They always cover this one.
Huh. There's a whole there's like a movie, like a horror movie they made out of this, by the way. In fact, I think they have 2 of them apparently. I saw online. I need to check it out and see what it's about. A local librarian who was from this area of town had always heard about the legend of the Bunnyman and was curious to really see if there's any truth to it or if it's just, all made up, to scare little children. So he decided to search for the truth of the Bunnyman. He found an article from the Washington Post from October 22nd, 1970, and the headline read, "Man in Bunny Suit Sought in Fairfax." The story goes that an Air Force cadet who went parking with his girlfriend on, it's called Guinea Road in Fairfax, and while he was parked there, he told of a man in a white suit that came out from the woods nearby with long bunny ears. And he ended up throwing an axe or a hatchet at them while they were sitting in the car.
Oh.
And then after he does that, he skips off into the woods in his suit. I'm like, this is, yeah, I was like, this is nutty.
It's really weird.
So, then about a week later, this is really crazy. So like a week later, on October 30th of 1970, the same Bunnyman makes a reappearance. But this time he's on the same freaking street that this first incident happened. So neighbors said they saw this Bunnyman walking around on Guinea Road again, and they reported seeing this man wearing this bunny suit, and he had a hatchet in his hand, and he was like hacking away at a house that was under construction. Oh, wow. So there was a security guard, because this is like a big subdivision that they were building at the time. Mm-hmm. A lot of people were kind of upset about this big, huge subdivision being built in this area, because it was a very rural area up until this point. Like, you know, it was mostly farmland and stuff. So they had a security guard on the property to make sure people weren't, you know, coming on and destroying the property and that. So the security guard ran him off, and the police were called in to investigate. But they never found any evidence of, you know, the Bunnyman or whatever. After a few weeks, the case was pretty much forgotten and closed. So we still don't know today who the Bunnyman was and why he was acting in such a bizarre manner. And it's still a mystery to today. Nobody has found... There haven't been a lot of stories about him recently like there was back then. But... like I said, people still go and party out by the bridge, the Bunnyman Bridge, and every Halloween the police have to go out there, and they do monitor it very hard around Halloween time. The kids go out there thinking they're going to lure out the Bunnyman, and he'll come and chop their insides out and leave their bodies hanging over the edge of the bridge or whatever. But yeah, that's what I have on the Bunnyman.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it'd be pretty fitting, like I said, right before Easter here. Talk about a crazed man in a bunny suit.
Yeah. All right. Well.
So what do you got for us this week?
I'm going to be talking about the Bennington Triangle today. Okay. So basically this is an area in southwestern Vermont where basically a lot of high strangeness, like Bigfoot sightings, UFOs, interdimensional portals, that kind of crazy stuff.
Yeah, all of it basically.
Yeah, and then the most famous part was there were a bunch of people that went missing between 1945 and 1950. Oh, so like very mysterious people.
411 kind of type stuff?
Yeah, actually, it's very similar to Missing 411. Like, I was like, oh, this is kind of similar, especially with how they disappear. It's centered around the Glastonbury Mountains area. So, some history about the place. The Native Americans in the local area would not step foot on the land, which is always a red flag. They believe the area was cursed, so... that's where we beginning. That's how you know it's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Their belief was that there were 4 winds fighting in this area, like winds, gust of winds, which is kind of a little bit true because the wind pattern in the mountain is very chaotic in like the way it runs, and the weather conditions can change very rapidly. So there was some reason to like their belief that the 4 winds were fighting each other. Huh. So the Bennington Monster was a thing. This happened a bit before.
All right.
So the Bennington Monster is a Bigfoot-like creature. One of the first sightings is in the early 1800s, where a stagecoach that was stopped due to a washed-out roadway, and then was suddenly attacked by a large creature who knocked the vehicle on its side. The people who survived the thing described it as a large, hairy black creature. Bigfoot. And they also found, like, giant, like, Bigfoot footsteps near the area, too, before it happened.
So it was like one of those skunk apes that people have seen, too. That's what they call, another name for Bigfoot.
So, in 1943, a man named Carol Herrick went missing during a hunting trip. His body was discovered 3 days later, and he was surrounded by giant footprints, and he had been squeezed to death. Which is very unusual,
Ugh,
like, just squeezed and crushed. Just kind of crazy.
Right. And they didn't think it was, like, bears or anything like that?
The way that it wasn't like, he wasn't attacked. He was just literally just crushed. Which normally, like, if animals attack, they will, like, use the body. They will eat, typically. Mm-hmm. They don't, typically, creatures don't really hunt unless they're hungry, This thing just kind of, I guess he just ran into it and it went bam. Or something. So, Yeah, and this leads
Right.
us to the popular mysterious disappearances that are very 411 askew, especially considering it was all in a mountain and wilderness. Well, most of them were on the mountain, but they're like all kind of related because they all happened within like a 5-year time period. So in 1945, Mitty Rivers, he was 74 years old, he disappeared. He was leading 4 hunters in the area of Hell Hollow, which is an interesting name, in southwest woods of Glastonbury, and he knew the area very well because he grew up there, and he's like a hunter, so he knows like typically how it works.
Right.
It's not like some random old person. Yes.
Right. He knew the lay of the land and all that.
So, as the group was returning to their camp, it was discovered that he didn't make it back. So he basically started walking faster than them to like get to the camp first, and they were like, "Oh, well, he knows the area," so they didn't really like try and catch up with him. They let him go ahead first, and when they got to the camp, he was not there. So they thought that was a little unusual, but they weren't really worried because he did know the area well, and like I said, he was a hunter,
right?
So, and then when he didn't return by a specific time, that's when they were like, "Oh, this is unusual that he hasn't returned yet." So they ended up reporting him as missing, and they thought it was unusual, so 300 concerned citizens, like local concerned citizens, and the U.S. Army soldiers all like scouted the area. Yeah, they combed through the woods for 8 days, and they did not find him.
Wow.
They did find one thing of his, or they presumed it was his. They discovered a rifle cartridge of the same type that he used in a stream, which is water, which we talked about in Missing 411, is normally around water is where the...
Yeah.
And they also talk about Missing 411 that unusual weather patterns, which is this area has a lot of unusual weather patterns, as we talked about earlier.
Yeah, you said the wind.
So in 1946, Paula Weldon went hiking on Long Trail, which is where the other guy went missing. This was December 1st, which is just important of what happens later. So she was wearing a bright red jacket, and several people had actually seen her in the area before she disappeared. An elderly couple had actually been hiking like right behind her about 100 feet, and they had been seen her, and then they saw her turn a corner on the trail, and when they caught up to that part, she was gone. Like, no trace of her at all. So they were like, oh, weird. They didn't really think much about it. And then she failed to return to her class the next day. She was in university. And then there was an extensive search that took place of over 1,000 people. And there was even a $5,000 reward. They combed the area. That was very unusual.
Wow.
So, 3 years later, James Tedford went missing on December 1st, 1949. The same date. Because the other girl went missing on December 1st, too. That's weird.
Yeah.
So,
wow, that's crazy.
He had been returning home on a bus with 14 other passengers. And they arrived at the final stop. Like, he was no longer on the bus. He just vanished. So the people before him, like, before the stop before, the 14 people, like, there was, like, evidence that he was there. And then at his actual stop, he was just gone. His luggage was still there on the car.
Huh. That's weird. And nobody saw him get on or off the bus either, correct?
No one saw him got off the bus at that stop. And his stuff was still on the bus when they went to investigate it. And there was an open bus timetable on the seat next to where he had been sitting.
That's weird.
Don't really know what happened to him. So on October 12th, 1950, an 8-year-old boy, Paul Jepson, went missing in the area. Paul was left playing inside a pickup truck bed, like, you know, the back of a pickup truck. I don't know why. It's a little weird, but the mother had left him in there for, like, a little bit while she went to go tend to some of her pigs, I believe is what it said.
Oh, some of her pigs?
And
like
then when she
wild
went back,
pigs? Is that what
pigs. Like, they were like a farm.
Oh,
like,
okay.
They probably were like farmers or something in the area.
Ya.
So they went back. She went back. Because, like, she hadn't been gone long, but when she went back, he was gone. And, the mom, like, checked the local area before, you know, she announced him missing. And then she did tell authorities, and people started coming in, searching for him. Hundreds went looking for the boy in the local area, and they even brought in bloodhounds. And the bloodhounds did pick up a scent, and the scent led them towards the Glastonbury Mountain.
Oh, okay. The same mountain where
So,
everybody else has been disappearing.
The mountain that everyone else has been disappearing at, which is weird.
Yeah.
And more unusual is that the boy had been talking about visiting the mountain several days before he disappeared.
Okay, that's really weird.
Well, he's been talking about going to the mountains, and then he disappears, and then the last place that they found his scent was by the mountains.
Huh.
They did think he probably might have gotten abducted or something, but it was very unusual that he had been talking about that.
Right,
like,
and then he
way.
goes and does it.
Yeah.
Huh. That is crazy.
So then, 16 days later, this is very close to the other one,
mm-hmm.
Frida Langer went missing. She was on a camping trip in the area with other family members. And during a hike, she slipped and fell in a stream, soaking her clothes. So here we go, talking about water again.
Yep.
So she told the others to just wait for her there, because they were still pretty close to the camp. Like, it was close enough that she was just she felt okay walking by herself back to the camp. So she walks off towards the camp, and she never returns back. So then the family members were like, what the heck? So they went back to the camp to check on her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's not there. She's just gone.
Huh.
Several search parties comb the area, like before.
Right.
And they do not find anything of her.
Hmm.
And they, like, deeply, thoroughly search this area. And then 7 months later, her body is found. She's the only body out of these 5.
Oh, wow. They found her body finally? 7
Yes.
months later, you said?
But it was in an area that they had extensively searched. Like, the search parties had went over that area multiple times. And the cause of... So they couldn't figure out the cause of her death because her body was so quickly, like, deteriorated.
Badly decomposed or whatever.
It was very quickly, decomposed or whatever. And they said that it was very unusual because if someone had killed her and then brought her back here, because they hadn't found her initially, it wouldn't make sense based on, like, what the level of decomposition she would have been at that stage. Like, it would have been way too messy. So it was very unusual that they found her.
Huh.
So, that's the story.
Interesting.
Of that area. Especially those, a lot of people did kind of think that those people, that there's speculation that those people who went missing was because of a serial killer.
Oh, really?
They think.
Was there one on the loose in that area then?
We don't know for sure, but that's, like, one of the theories. Because, like, other than, like, you know, people walking through portals is the only other explanation.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
Because, like, a lot of these line up with missing 411 stuff.
That's what I'm just thinking. I mean, it sounds almost exactly... I was watching one of those, one of the ones that they did, the people on the mountain one, and they owned, like, a hunting lodge, these guys did. Did you watch that one?
Oh, I think...
And it was pretty messed up. Like, what happened, like, they would be missing, they do a search party, they can't find them, and then a week later, after they'd already searched that area, they'd go back and they'd find, like, their boots. But the rest of the body was never found.
Huh.
It was kind of crazy. So, now we know that if there's ever a zombie apocalypse, we need to move to Wyoming. Yeah. And that zebras will maul your arm off if they're angry enough, I guess.
Yeah.
And that you don't want to hang out in the Bennington Triangle because you could end up missing.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Those are some very good life lessons to learn, I think.
I think so, yeah. All right, well, if you enjoyed our podcast today, follow us on Instagram at 2ScaredyCatsPodcast, and please be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It really helps the show get discovered. And tune in 2 weeks for a new episode. And to all our scaredy cats and kittens out there, remember, curiosity didn't kill these 2 scaredy cats.
Thank you.